What If is Marvel Studios' most recent TV show on Disney Plus, and a big experiment, being this the first animated series and their first anthology series, and because of that, it is just a totally whole new experience. Unlike other shows that I feel like every other Disney Plus show started off okay or ish, and then got better as it went along, and then maybe dropped the ball in the finale, depending on who you ask. But this show is so different, being an anthology series. The quality was constantly going up and down and down and up, and well, that's why if you've seen any of my other reviews, you know that I start with counting, talking about each character, what I thought of them, what I thought of their arcs, and then going through that, talking about the show, and then at the end I give a overall of the show, a quick overall of everything I haven't talked about yet. There are too many characters to do that in, and because of this anthology format, I thought it'd be fun to do something even different for a new time. In this review, I'm going to be going episode by episode, giving my thoughts on the episode, and then as I go along, ranking them. Basically, like I do my movie countdowns, but in one review-ish for one show. And then at the end, I'll give my thoughts on the show as a whole and what I want to see from it in the future, because this definitely could use some work. So without further ado, let's quit beating around the bush and let's get into what I thought about episode 1.
Episode 1 is exactly what I wanted the show to be. Like I just said, I wanted every episode to be based off a movie. This seemed to be the first Avenger. What if Peggy Carter got the serum instead of Steve Rogers? And the episode concept alone, as a pilot, to introduce this concept of, what if is the normal movies that you know, but something's different, and here's the story we're trying to tell. It's so different from every other episode, and it obviously feels like this was the first one they wrote, because the pacing is like The Flash. Holy crap. They're basically retelling the first Avenger movie, but, with this twist. And that's what I wanted, but thank God I didn't get it, because they're telling a whole movie, a 2-hour-long movie within an hour and a half. And they're just jumping from plot point to plot point. Boom, 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 boom. You're supposed to know these characters. They do not introduce Bucky at all. Bucky's writing is just god awful, obviously. And I'll talk about that at the end, but now I'm just talking about the episodes, by themselves. It's so fast paced, and I feel like you don't get any time to know these characters, because technically these are new characters. They're in new situations. I want to know what Steve and Peggy's new relationship is like. Peggy was already kind of in the movie, kind of I don't want to call her top, but she was already not overpowered, but already had the pants in the relationship, I guess, because that's just who she was. And then Steve was obviously this guy who's stronger, all that crap. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but then those roles aren't really switched here. So you don't introduce these new versions of these characters well. I feel like it's just scene after scene. There's not a real plot. The plot ends halfway through when they stop the Red Skull, but then he gets a new plot, so it's we're doing this now, and then she still ends up going to the future. So I don't know. It wasn't a good episode. The pacing was bad. The characters were fine, and we're supposed to be getting sequel episode with Peggy Carter, which they tease at the end, which I am interested in. Because now you just got to tell an original story. Don't bother retreading. And that's another thing, was we're not seeing a new story. It's the same basic story, so nothing new is being told. So right now it's number 1 on the list. As I go through, I'll be seeing how the list changes. So on episode 2, which, spoiler alert, massive improvement. Episode 2, what if T'Challa became Star-Lord? It was a good episode. It really was. Chadwick Boseman, of course, gave it I don't want to say a phenomenal performance. It was way better. You expect these Hollywood stars who are just actors to not be very good voice actors. But he did, a good job. He really did. It was believable. It was fun to see this new version of the character. And this is something they did. They introduced this new version of the character. Chadwick Boseman said that he wanted to integrate some of this version into the live-action version, which it is awful. We're not going to be able to see that. I'm going to try not to mention that as much because it's a real shame that this is the last performance. But this episode was really fun. The best thing this episode did was relieve me of the fact that, it's going to be the same story. He's just going to assemble the Guardians. But no, it's a completely original story. And when I was first watching it, I'm like, okay, they're doing original stories. Why, though? Why not do what I wanted? But at the same time, I was like, oh, thank God, the pacing is actually good. There's actually story here. It's I don't want to say it's not a spy story. It's like it's a heist. It's a heist movie, which makes sense for these characters. Some of the things throughout the whole series of season of What If, I'll explain this at the end too. You have to disband your disbelief a couple times. Like, oh, did he really change Thanos by himself? Of course, like, okay, yeah, but just disband your disbelief. Enjoy it while you have it. And it was fun. All the characters worked well with each other. Yondu and T'Challa being like buddy at the end of it. I'm not saying they shouldn't have been friends. I just mean like their conflict when he's like, we're the same. You wanted to see the galaxy. That didn't feel right. That didn't feel too right. It was a fun episode, being that it was all like, it was original plot. It had it's crazy that I'm saying it had good pacing and original plot. Like, that's like the bare minimum. And I think that's what made it a good episode. The interactions between all the characters. The one guy being like a fanboy of him got kind of annoying. I don't remember it being that annoying on my first watch through. But yeah, it was a fun episode. Right now, it's at the top. Numero 1. Episode 3 was, I think, the episode like we literally knew the least about. It's a murder mystery plot. What if the Avengers, what if we lost the Earth's Mightiest Heroes? The what if doesn't really work because they didn't want to spoil it. The real what if is what if Hope was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and died? That's the real what if, but that spoils it. The biggest flaw with this episode is that it's not a good murder mystery because we don't even know about the murderer. Like we don't even know about him. It's not even mentioned. Like, the fact the soonest we can figure out that it's him, that it's Hank Pym, is when Black Widow is searching on the computer, and by that time there's only like 2 more scenes before we find out it's him. So by that time it's too late already. They should have somehow, and that would have made this episode honestly a lot better. I'm dissing it for that because that's such an integral part of a murder mystery, is to like be able to solve it on your own. I'm not saying you have to solve it, but then when it comes in, when I first watched this episode, I was like, oh yeah, huh. Like, of course, I figured it out. I was like, oh, it's going to be like Ant-Man or one of them. Ant-Man or Hope or Hank or someone like that when they mentioned Hope, right? I thought it was her, honestly. But you just didn't set it up right, and it's a murder mystery. Everything else from that was fun. It's also one of those things where, like, as it's going along, because you don't know that the dude can shrink, stuff like stuff like Hawkeye shooting, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. At first, him killing Thor, I was like, that made no sense. You didn't need to kill him. But then the second time, I was like, okay, it kind of makes sense. Whatever, it works. Yeah, so it was a fun episode, a really fun plot. A murder mystery. They got to find out who's killing the Avengers. It needed to be set up better. That's why it's at number 2 right now. Depending on the day you ask me, this is constantly going to change whether or not I like this more than its second episode. I think I just like the plot. The plot was better handled in the second episode. The structure was better handled in the second episode than the third because of the awful reveal. So yeah, it's at second right now. Episode 3 is in the second spot. It's funny. Episode 4. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? This was one that was interesting because this is when the episode started feeling longer than they actually were. How do I describe that? The first episode felt really quick, really quick, less than 30 minutes it felt like. Episode 2 and 3 were like normal. Okay, that was obviously like 30-minute episodes. Episode 4 and onward felt so long. And some of those are bad, like I'll talk about here shortly. But then some of those, like this one, are so good. This felt like a short film. Like this, and it's not just because of the ending being like, oh, he didn't save the day. And I'll talk about this in the finale. But the finale does kind of ruin this episode, but it also makes the episode fine. Watching this episode on its own, and that's why I'm reviewing it here now, it's so good. I feel like the biggest problem I have with it is that I feel like there should have been more emotion when he was constantly switching. Like, the first time he switches, it's just like, whoa, I actually time traveled. Instead of, oh my God, I'm seeing this woman that I love again, when I thought I never would. That's really it. Benedict Cumberbatch is a good voice actor, like, actually. He did really well in this performance. I can't even remember the chick's name. Christine. Christine was fine. They brought back the original actress. She was nothing special in Doctor Strange, and I highly doubt she's coming back for Multiverse of Madness. But she was fine in this. Her lines felt so basic. You told me we'd go out for creme brulee. It felt basic, so it was kind of hard to see him falling in love with her. I see where they try to do that with like the scene where it's like, sorry, but this shirt is mine. I see where they were trying to like show that connection. But dude, and it just progressed. With other episodes, I'll talk about like episode 6 or even episode 1, where it felt like just plot point after plot point after plot point, and new plots were coming up, and it's like, what's going on? It starts out with him trying to revive Christine, and then it goes to him summoning all these demons and stuff so he can get stronger. Then it goes to him trying to fight his demon self. But they all work off each other so well. Like I said, it feels like a short film. The script and the pacing was so amazing for it to perfectly like go into one another. A whole film has 2 hours to get the 3 acts in structure. With 30 minutes, you don't have a lot of time to have 3 definite acts. You mainly have kind of 2 acts, setup and finale. That's why pacing is so important. Like, look at episode 1. That was paced awfully. So you can tell that there's 3 acts, but you're just like, ugh, you really had to stretch to get there. With this one, it's just perfectly melded into each other. It's so good. It's so good. Not my favorite episode. Not my favorite. But it's definitely the best episode. Like, it's not my favorite because of just personal bias and whatever. This is my list. But this is the best episode of the season. And like I said, the finale kind of ruins it. But just looking at the episode on its own, it is fantastic. The ending is grown up. It's mature. And I love it for that. And I love Doctor Strange as the character. And this one episode made me want to see so much more of him so bad. That's why it's on top. This episode, episode 5, What If Zombies? This was extremely hyped for a while because the zombie storyline in the comics is so big, it's so popular, and it's so nuanced. It's so different from other zombie stories. You'll have to read it to know what I'm talking about. We may be getting more of that in the future. I don't know. I'm super excited. But this episode is very mixed. A lot of people say that it's such a good episode. It's one of those things where it just like the last episode where it melds it feels like a short film. Not just because of the ending, but because of how it melds the 3 acts together. The biggest problem with it, though, is the script, the writing. And this is a problem that everyone has pointed out. They're like, I want to love this episode so bad, but the writing is just so bad because they can't find a tone. And Marvel is known for their quippiness, for their like, let's make a joke here, let's do this. But they also can be serious. They're also going to have serious scenes. And this show needed to be so serious. Like, a couple quips are fine, and they were doing fine. And I hate to say it, but they're doing all right. Until Paul Rudd showed up. Until Scott Lang showed up. Oh my God. Let's talk about this. Like I said, the episode is paced amazing. It is beautiful. Everything I said about the last episode is for this one. It's just perfectly paced. The writing is bad. The writing is really good. I get that like Peter is supposed to be this optimistic guy, and you can have optimism, and that's what he has. He's not like quipping or making jokes. He's just optimistic in a world that is bleak. But then when you have people making jokes about American reality shows and making puns about, zombies, people that you love, it just doesn't work. The best thing I can think of while watching this was it felt like they were writing like an extreme, dark, threatening story. And then one of the execs came in and was like, guys, this is Marvel Studios. Like, we gotta reel it back. And like, what, it's still PG-13? Like, we're still doing fine. It's like, yeah, but like, it's a little too serious. Like, kids, this episode's got Spider-Man in it. It's for kids. And they're like, oh, right. We're already halfway through done writing the episode, though. Just have Scott Lang's in there, right? Scott Lang's a funny guy. Have him just do a bunch of puns. That's not funny. Okay, we'll say that it's not funny. Meta humor. All right, and they wrote it in. I'll talk about this at the end of the episode. But hopefully in the future, because obviously they're doing a Marvel Zombies project, they fix this. They fix this problem. Obviously, I want to see more of this. There's still characters that we haven't even seen, like the Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor, all those characters, and they've opened the door for sequel episodes. And I'll say this is the first episode that I watched again before my rewatch for the review. No other episode I did that because I enjoyed this episode so much. The characters that they chose were characters that we don't see a lot in the other episodes. Spider-Man, Ant-Man, the Wasp, Bucky, he was in like one other episode, but Bucky was there. Sharon Carter, those characters. Bruce Banner wasn't in a lot of episodes. So I really like that. But like I said, it's just the writing was not good. They could have done such a better job with it. Honestly, we're getting more, so I hope it's better. This is my favorite episode though, because I just enjoyed that much. I like Spider-Man, and I like how he's portrayed in this. I like the dynamics between the characters. It's just the script could have been so much better. And when you remember it, you don't always remember stuff like that. Looking back on it, so that's why I can, erase that from my memory and remember the good stuff, because there is some really good stuff in this episode, but sadly that writing just boggles it down. But it is at the top of my list, above the last episode. Above the last episode I talked about, I mean. Yikes. Gonna spoil it now. This is at the bottom of the list. Okay. Episode, what is it, 6? Episode 6. What if Killmonger saved Tony Stark? I like the idea. I like the idea. Everybody loves Killmonger, and everybody thinks that he's one of the best Marvel villains. And the idea behind this was obviously, what if Killmonger won? But they wanted, time to, flesh that out. But they don't, time is in the timeline to flesh it out. But they didn't have time in the episode. This is another one where you could tell there's a 3-act structure, but it's just so awfully paced. The story of what if Killmonger won would have been so cool, but they should have said it in the time of the Black Panther. Have him win the fight and, T'Challa actually die. Awful irony there, but, actually have T'Challa die down the waterfall, and then have him actually take over, because then you have a bit of time, because that takes place right after Civil War in 2016. So then you have 2 years to show what he would have done with Wakanda, in those 2 years between when Thanos would have showed up. Or hell, even show when Thanos shows up and show how that would differ maybe. I don't know. Anything other than this. What if you rescued Tony Stark? It was basically just a means to an end to have him make robots and take over the Wakanda. It's a fine story. When I watched it the second time, I wasn't as annoyed with it, because I like Killmonger as a character. He was interesting. Michael B. Jordan is fun. Michael B. Jordan as a voice actor is okay. Nothing amazing. Better than Sebastian Stan. Not as good as Benedict Cumberbatch, but he's fine. It was fun to have him back. But it's just bad. This episode worse than the first episode. The pacing wasn't bad. The pacing was bad, but it was just all over the place. So you're going from here to here to here to here. It feels like he has 1,000 plans in one, but you're seeing each one of those plans go through. It's just so bad. It's bad. A lot of people, and it's funny, this is mixed, because I see a lot of people love this episode for the concept of what if Killmonger won, but even they acknowledge oh yeah, it was weird. We didn't even get to see it. And the worst part is the finale definitely ruins this episode, because of the fact that we know we're never getting a sequel. At least you can be okay, maybe we'll get a sequel. They left the door open for something interesting. But then the finale comes in and it's just yeah, definite confirmed, no sequel. What the heck? Even if the finale didn't end with it, Killmonger ending that way, it would have still been well, maybe we're not getting a sequel. It's like being left undelivered on Snapchat, It's I have a chance, she'll open the message. But no, they left you on open. They left it on open. Oh my god, this episode is so bad for that, and because the finale just totally ruined it. That's why it's at the bottom of the list. What a shame, man. What a shame. Episode 7. What if Thor was an only child? When I first heard about this, I think it was the day before. I was that's a weird concept. What are you gonna do with that? And this is when it reminded me, what if isn't telling big stories anymore? And I don't mean anymore, but they work best when they're just telling a small, contained story. A story that takes place over maybe a day, fits within the 30 minutes. When they try to tell bigger stories than that, it doesn't work. Episode 1, for example, Peggy Carter. Episode 2, 6, Killmonger. Those don't work because you're trying to tell bigger stories. Stories that would fit in a movie. And the concepts are those that would fit in a movie. With something like this, something like T'Challa as Star-Lord, that's something that would fit in a movie, but then they tell a shorter story. Something like this, if he was an only child. The real story isn't what if he was an only child, because they don't explore that. The real story is what if he threw a big party and it would destroy the universe or destroy the planet. That's the real story. And it's a fun story. A lot of people didn't like this episode. I liked it. It was fun. The fight between Captain Marvel and Thor is one that we've all wanted to see, and it was really fun to watch how evenly matched they were. It's fun. This is a fun episode, and that's the best way I can say it, is it's fun. It's fun to watch. Chris Hemsworth was a really good voice actor in this, actually. And everybody else was fun for him to work off of. The ending was, your typical basic stuff. And I feel like that's why a lot of people don't like it, is because, like, previous episodes have had some heavy themes. The zombie apocalypse, but, like, taken more seriously, kind of. Killmonger destroying, like, these worlds and, taking over, killing these people to get what he wants, that kind of stuff. It's gotten to pretty dark places. And then this episode is just bright and cheery and sunny. But I think they did that because the next episode was going to be kind of dark, and the finale gets that kind of way. But it was a really fun episode to watch, and that's all I can describe it as. I feel like the ones that have the most positive attributes are the ones I have the hardest time talking about. It's just fun. It's a fun episode. It's fun. I like the Party Thor character. I thought he'd be annoying, but he wasn't, That's why it's right under episode 4. Yeah, above episode 2. That's how much I liked it. Episode 8, what if Ultron won, basically? This is another one of those concepts that you're like, oh, this would be so cool to see. What if Ultron won, He had this idea for, like, evolution or whatever. But then it gets boggled down by the finale, because this isn't an episode, right? They don't really do anything with it. Halfway through the episode, the concept is over. It's, what if we set up the finale, really, is what it's about. And it's fine. The characters, Natasha and Hawkeye doing their thing, it was fun to watch. Some of the animation, that's something I haven't been talking about because I'll talk about that at the end, but some of the animation in this episode was really good. Seeing them take on the world together and this bleak, and they took it with 100% seriousness. This is what they should have been doing in episode 5, the zombies episode. They took it with 100% seriousness with that scene, that moment where she's like, don't lose faith, don't give up on me. He's like, I'm not giving up. I'm tired. He's done with it. And then that self-sacrifice isn't him he's like, I'm done with this. Like, even if we win here, he's like, even if we win, what does that mean? If we stop Ultron, what does that mean? Of course, the big part of the episode was Ultron fighting the Watcher, Uatu. It was really fun. Like I said, the imagery was really cool. The Steve Ditko stuff was nice. But it would have been cool to see that at the very end of the episode as like a teaser for the last episode, but then have the stuff going into them be the episode, where we see like Tony Stark die and the Avengers fight him. I think that would have been more interesting to see. It's a fine episode on its own. I did originally have it above the Party Thor episode. You know what? I'll keep it above Party Thor. Right above episode 7 is where this episode's going. It's a fine episode. Obvious setup for the finale. But when you look at it as a two-parter to the finale, it works a bit better, but also just fine. Whatever. So that's all I have to say to that. Fine episode, I guess. Episode 9. The finale. This one is got a lot of people mad at it because they're like, oh, typical Marvel just doing the crossover thing. Like, you could have done something interesting. But I feel like for a first season, this was a fun send-off. We got to see the characters again. I hope they don't do this for every season. I'll talk about that again. But for, all the characters to see one final hurrah, it was fun. Some episodes it made worse. Like episode 4 kind of ruined it, but didn't really at the same time. I really don't care. Killmonger episode definitely ruined that one. For sure ruined that one. Kind of accidentally ruined the episode before it since it had to have setup. But I really liked it. I'm a stupid Marvel Studios simp, I guess. I'm their bitch. They have a fun multiverse crossover. I'm going to love it. Peggy Carter was better in this episode. It was fun seeing her be like the natural leader. It was fun seeing all the characters fight Ultron. Super cool. Animation was crazy good. Like, holy crap. It was so much fun to watch this episode. It really made it like, oh yeah, this is why this needed to be animated. Some of the stuff was dumb, like, oh, the Infinity Stones can't be crushed by my Infinity Crusher. In the comics, the Infinity Stones can't be used in other universes, but whatever, disband your disbelief. But that was one that was hard to disband disbelief. You could have just had him destroy the Infinity Crusher while he had the stones on him still, you know? Anyways, it's a really fun episode to watch. All the endings are nice to see. The one Black Widow going to the different universe, which is kind of funny when you think about it, because Hawkeye's still dead in that universe. Like all of her Avenger friends are still dead in that universe. So, yikes. But anyways, yeah, it was a fun episode to watch. One of those things where, like I said, positive things, I can't talk about it. I think this was a good way to end the season, though, to have this crossover. Like, they shouldn't do this in every season. It shouldn't be like, oh my gosh, we have a new multi-universal threat. But it was fun to see this. Characters that shine in this episode were, of course, Peggy Carter, Party Thor, and Doctor Strange. It was really fun to see them work off of each other. It really was. Like, you wouldn't think that these characters would work, but they did. Didn't feel exactly like as close to the family as our Avengers do, but we had 30 minutes, and they really took good use of that time. It wasn't like other episodes where it tried to do 3 acts. It wasn't like other episodes that rushed through everything. It felt like one story. One good story, and they told it. And it was really good. It really got me interested in seeing what they do next. So here it is on the list. I can't really remember where I put it, but this is the final list. I'll talk about that at the end. Bring it back up. I don't know why I'm bringing it up twice. But anyways, let's get on to my overview of the season. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the end part of the video where I talk about the season as a whole. Now, really quick, I did this differently, being that it's an anthology series. I wanted to rank the episodes, so as I went along, I kind of told y'all where it was going on the list, like I do my countdown videos, but this is, of course, a review-ish. So, I figured as I'm talking about the series, we'll spice it up. Oh, I did this wrong. Boom. Tier list. We got the episodes down here, and I figured the GOATs, amazing, great, good, alright, meh, bad. I don't know, I just found this online. I figured as I talk through it, I'll go quickly through the episodes like I just did. I'm talking about each episode individually because after this, it's going right into the episode-by-episode stuff. I like to put that in just to make the video look longer, so it makes it look like I put more effort into it. So, I feel like these aren't good, so I'm going to rename this. I'm actually fine with these. I just renamed that to Grade A. So let's go over this. So Episode 1's pacing was really bad, and so that's why it's just a meh. The pacing was really quick. It showed promise though, so that's fine. I've already talked about these episodes, but I'll talk about them again. The Star-Lord episode was good. T'Challa Star Wars, I wouldn't say it was great or nothing. It was just fine enough. It was good. This one was another one that was just good. The twist, like I said, the twist was badly put together. Basically, this was amazing. That episode was fan-frickin-tastic. Episode 4, the Doctor Strange, super good. I'm flying through this because I've already talked about all these. Grade A, baby. Grade A. This episode, okay? Not actually. I'm totally, biased there. It's actually, in front of this one. Grade A, nothing goes in grade A. I don't even know. Can I delete this? Let me delete the row. Nothing even goes in grade A, okay? Nothing was mind-blowing. These were... I'm stumbling over my words. I'm trying not to talk about... This episode, episode 6, bad. That was just an awful episode. This one was really fun. I can't remember where I put it, but it was a great episode. I'm not showing the whole list, so whatever I had last time, if it goes against this, then who cares? The one before, episode 8, basically the prelude, it was fine. It was all right. The fight scene was cool and stuff. And then the finale was also great. I want to put it above that one. So there's the tier list. Oh, wow. That's embarrassing. My face cam is covering. Oh, God. I'm messing everything up. Oh dear. Oh, God. Webcam. There we go. I messed that up. Jeezy fucking Pete's. That's the tier list right there of all the episodes. Episode 5, 4, 9, 7, 2, 3, 8, 1, 6. That's the tier list. The season as a whole had some pretty... it being animated, I feel like, is something that actually did help it. I was worried. I figured, they're just animating it so they can just get the actors in a booth to do their lines rather than bring them on set and in costume and all that. But no, this series really showed why it needed to be animated. And it took great use of some of that animation in some parts. Yeah, it was a fine enough show. Where I would put it on the ranking of, the Marvel shows... I think I would have it below Falcon and Winter Soldier, above WandaVision, which is funny because WandaVision wasn't a bad show at all. I just I don't know. It really wasn't, but I feel like I enjoyed this more. This is a show that can go on for forever. As long as you're making new Marvel movies. Heck, you don't even have to make new Marvel movies. You can keep just going off the ones that you already have. But, you know, as long as the MCU is a thing, What If can be a thing. And I really hope they don't just stop at 2 seasons. Like, I'm sure after a while, like, you can't just keep doing it because it'll lose interest. But, like, just keep it going, man. Or even do a thing where you have 1 season per, like, phase, you know? We don't need a season every year, right? But we're getting enough movies that we're getting enough movies. Now we're getting shows where you can have a season a year. So, I don't know. It's got a lot of promise. It can be better. There's a lot of things spinning off of this. We're getting a lot of new animated projects. Spider-Man Freshman Year, I Am Groot, stuff like that. And then, of course, what is kind of a spinoff, this had a backdoor pilot. Episode 5 was obviously a backdoor pilot to the new Marvel Zombies show. I think I want to make a whole video talking about all this stuff separately, so I'll only kind of mention here. Marvel Zombies has a lot of promise, have a very serious tone the whole time. You can make jokes, but don't make it the center focus. If it's a continuation of this one, I'm interested to see what they do, so on and so forth. What If is a fine series, and it basically... I'm looking forward to see what else they do. It's a fun series to do. The comics are super fun, and now you have a show to do that. It's awesome. It's awesome. If this video seemed off, it's because I'm trying a lot of new things while doing this. Like, the tier list thing was super bad, like, just now thinking about this, because I literally just went over all this stuff, and I didn't want to talk about it while doing the tier list. But, hey, I don't know. Trying out new things. So now onto the episode by episode. This is on my second channel. I posted every week I watched an episode. I recorded my first impressions, and I posted it to my second channel, and then I'm just taking all those and putting them at the end of this video. So I'm probably going to be repeating myself for a lot of these What If episodes. Anyways, that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. The video over, except it's not. Next is Eternals. Ah!